Hello everybody, my name is Max Vogelsang and my presentation is on biodiversity loss. So the Earth's natural habitat has faced a lot of problems with the concurrence of the ever-expanding human population. As our population continues to grow, our consumption also continues to grow. As the population increases, we need more food and we need more land to produce that food. We need more land to have houses and build things and expand our consumption. And this causes a lot of problems with biodiversity loss in a multitude of different ways. So I have concluded it down to 4 of the biggest contributors to biodiversity loss, and that is climate change, pollution, overexploitation of natural resources and destruction of habitat, and invasive species. So, what are the steps that we can take in order to combat these main causes of biodiversity loss? So, climate change is one of the 4 main factors. Environmental changes are driven by climate change and they disturb natural habitat and species in ways that are still only becoming clear. There are signs that rising temperatures are affecting biodiversity, while changing rainfall patterns, extreme weather events, and ocean acidification are putting pressure on species already threatened by other human activities. So as we continue to develop, we emit greenhouse gases, and these cause climate change and global warming. And it has a trickle-down effect. So it causes acid rain to fall in the oceans, and these destroy coral reefs because they cannot survive in higher acidic conditions in the water. And it makes the coral and other shellfish species that purify the water, like clams and other things, it makes it harder for them to produce their calcium-based shells. And the coral and these clams and other shellfish also absorb a lot of carbon, and if they die out because of ocean acidification, then they cannot absorb as much carbon, which leads to further problem. The second one is pollution, and pollution is also one of the biggest contributing factors to climate change, as I just talked about. And pollution can directly affect biodiversity loss in the fact that, like you can see here in the image of the bird, like oil spills is a major pollution problem that greatly affects ocean life, as well as bird species and any other life that uses the waters that are polluted in this way. Atmospheric pollution, like the picture above with the smokestack and the birds flying by, this affects the birds as they breathe in this kind of pollution that's coming out, and it can affect their reproduction and just their life in general. And once these pollutants also enter the water cycle, these chemicals can affect marine life as well. The third main cause of biodiversity loss is resource exploitation and habitat destruction. This is also a large factor that directly affects biodiversity loss more than indirectly, like climate change does, because it involves physical alteration of the environment that species live in. I included 2 images, one of the logging and one of the strip mining that I talk about in the slide. Cutting down forests like this removes a lot of tree species, and it also removes the habitat that other animals and insects and other wildlife use to live. And if they have nowhere to live, then they die out. And strip mining completely erases certain areas of land and leaves them completely barren and soilless. And this is a major problem because when it rains on these strip mining sites, the water picks up all the chemicals and stuff in the rock and whatever is left behind, and it washes it down into the streams, and it affects the marine life in streams and lakes, and all of this water eventually goes into lakes and oceans. The fourth contributor to the loss of biodiversity is invasive species, and this is one that I've personally seen a lot. I've included two images on the slide. One is an invasive species called kudzu that's very prevalent down in the south, and it is a vine species that grows over top of trees and other shrubs, and once it grows over top, it completely blocks out the light, and it kills off anything that's underneath of it because it cannot get sunlight in order to grow. This is a big problem because there's no native species that eat or destroy or keep the kudzu's growth in check, and when it's left unchecked, it causes massive destruction. The image on the bottom is of the European wild boar, which was introduced a long time ago in America, and it doesn't really have a whole lot of natural predation besides like coyotes or something can prey on the smaller offspring. But these wild boars reproduce like crazy. They have multiple litters of piglets each year, and they just explode the population. The only thing that keeps them in check is human hunting. These species cause a lot of problems in forests. They do a lot of damage. They root and they dig up plants and roots, and they cause a lot of soil erosion. The biggest problem that they cause is with farmland. A lot of farmers have problems with these invasive species digging up their crops and ruining their harvest each year, which is another major problem. So what kind of things can be done in order to combat this? One of the easiest things you can do to make an impact is by consciously reducing your carbon footprint. You can do things like recycling products, buying sustainably harvested foods, especially marine life like tuna and salmon, driving eco-friendly green vehicles like electric vehicles that don't emit greenhouse gases, reducing your plastic packaging consumption, and composting leftover organic material. Instead of throwing it away in a landfill where it just gets buried and unused, you can use it in order to grow your own food. You can also donate to wildlife conservation programs and improve your local wildlife area. So in conclusion, biodiversity loss is a serious and very complex problem that we face in our world today. By understanding the problems associated with it and understanding what caused it, you have the ability to take action in any way to combat this problem both directly and indirectly. The main causes that I discussed today are not the only causes, but they also have expandable subcategories of problems that you'll notice once you see the broad causes of biodiversity loss, as I've explained. Thank you for listening to my presentation on the loss of biodiversity.